Hello, bead lovers and jewelry makers. Sandra Lupo here to show you how to make delicious ice cream cone earrings, pendants, and other dangles with the wonderful and absolutely scrumptious Jesse James Beads ice cream mixes. The one that I'll be working with is the Neapolitan mix, and it includes the strawberry cream, vanilla bean, and root beer float. There are hundreds of beads in this mix, and they are truly delightful to see. And wait until you see them made up in a ice cream cone design. Also, we'll be working with artistic wire and a twist wire, a round wire. That is a multicolor wire, just perfect for making cone components. And what we make them on is my tool, the Cone-Tastic Tool, brought to you by myself and the fine folks at Beaded. The Cone-Tastic Tool is included in Jesse James Beads catalog, and that's why I'm here to show you how to work with these wonderful colors and shapes and textures, and in whether it's wire or beads, and make something fun and delightful. And let's get started. I will show you the bead mix that we'll be working with, and I want to introduce you to my Cone-Tastic Tool. You will find this in the Jesse James Beads catalog, easy to purchase online, and I will begin to show you how to assemble and to use the Cone-Tastic Tool to create an earring. First off, with artistic multicolor wire and a triple scoop, strawberry cream, vanilla bean, and root beer float. I'll show you how to assemble the tool. When you open the tool base, out spills your 3 mandrels and a hex wrench. This design will utilize the medium mandrel. So let me remove it and insert it. Show you how to do that. I like to keep the mandrels out and screw in the base. The hex wrench sits into the set screw, and here is my medium-sized mandrel. Place the flat part of the mandrel, the stem, into the guide hole and line it up into the hole of the holder and line it up with the set screw. All you need is maybe a 1/4 turn to tighten. There you are. Now I'm right-handed. This is my dominant hand. I like to hold the base in my left hand, and I like to make my thumb and index fingers do the work of the wire, placing down onto into and onto the tool. All right, we have the artistic multicolor wire here. I place it, and it is in a 20 gauge. I place it into the hole, just make a quick turn with my left hand, which is my non-dominant hand, and I hold at an angle, and then I begin to lay down the rounds of wire. Make sure that you have plenty of wire available to you as you work. You don't want the spool to be tied up against the mandrel. Index finger and thumb placing and holding the wire so that each round lays down right next to the previous one. If you see a little gapping, that can be corrected after you remove the cone from the mandrel. All right, but I do like to have a firm touch with the thumb as it places the wire down. Okay, again, make sure that you have plenty of wire available to you as you continue to wind the wire around. When I get to the pinnacle, to the end, I will cut away the wire cone, away from the spool and away from the guide hole. We're almost there. This is a 20 gauge wire, which works nicely with this particular medium size mandrel. And this is the process whether you are working with a small, medium, or large mandrel. All right, I'll take the back of my cutter and place it against the very tip of the medium-sized mandrel. I will also take bent nose pliers or a flat nose pliers and just give it a little bit of a smush at that end. Remember, this is a mandrel. The mandrel is a shaping device. So if you lay the tool, you lay the pliers against the end of the wire, then you really won't feel that little bit of end wire popping out. Remove it from the guide hole, and here is your cone. Now I'd like to show you how to build that cone to make a pair, and that is how you create a cone with wire. Hi again. We're going to make this triple scoop multicolor cone matching earring. I have already made the cone that you had seen me make previously, and now I'm going to assemble with these particular beads in that order. I won't need the wire right now, and I won't need the tool. What I do need are these wonderful beads. First of all, I'm going to start with a tiny little square bead, tiny, from the root beer mix, and I place the wire cone right over it. Next, I need some filler beads, and you'll understand why. We don't want the wire sloshing around. It's always great to put a bead or two in there as the diameter of the cone increases so that the wire doesn't slosh around. And I know what's in here happens to be from the root beer mix. Then I'm going to top it with this delicious little floral, looks like a cupcake. And this is going to allow me to, I think I need a different one. Have to ream this one out, not a problem. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. This fits very nicely into the cone diameter. Okay, looking at my sample, I'm going to work with the strawberry cream, top it with one of these beautiful sparkly rondelles or saucer beads, coming in with the vanilla bean, again another saucer, top it with, here's my third scoop, root beer float, and again another sparkly saucer on top. All right, I'd like to take another tiny little square root beer float bead, top it. Okay, there we are. Let's see. Looks good to me. And I spoke earlier about compressing. Don't worry about gaps in the wire. in the cone, you can always compress. And the way I do that is with my tools to create a simple loop. Okay, here we go. Holding all this down, making sure that the assembly is correct. I'm going to just make a bend. I'm going to make a cut. Make sure you hold the wire and you're wearing protective glasses. Reach for my round nose pliers. Make a simple loop. And then here's some heavy gauge wire. And that is the, I believe I made this a loop with the brass wire in a 16 gauge or 14 gauge that is in the Jesse James catalog. Add this to the loop of the cone dangle. You need to do some little adjustment here and there. And there you are. A pair of triple scoop Jesse James beads and Cone-Tastic creation. For a second pair of earrings, I'm going to use the artistic wire in an 18 gauge twist wire, and I'm going to use the luscious strawberry cream part of the Neapolitan mix. I have one assembled already, as you can see here. And this is more of an open cone. We're able to fill with these wonderful beads, all different sizes, right inside the cone. It's a fun look. So let me start. At the base is this crackle bead. It's about a 6 millimeter. So actually, I think if my measuring is correct from years of experience, I think it's a 7 millimeter. A very tiny little but very pretty crystal rondelle, probably about a 5 millimeter. And then I'm going to top it with a glass rondelle bead, melon shape, as I have in the first example. Okay, now I've threaded on the cone. So you see that wire in there? Let's fill it up with some fine beads. This is a very pretty pale rose quartz. And it'll sit right where it can fit. And here is a beautiful, it's not a barrel, it's more like a cylinder bead, and it's faceted. Actually, it's a elongated square. That's going to sit nicely in there. You want to be able to fill the opening so that any opening so that the head pin doesn't slosh around. Okay. Next, isn't that wonderful? Look at that, delightfully gold-plated, heavily gold-plated, melon-shaped metal bead, perfect for the deeper pink matte bead. Let's just see how the sizing is. They look fairly similar. Here's another one of those wonderful crackle rondelles, and I'll top it with a melon bead, and let's do the necessary. Okay, now if I compress too much, then I run the risk of collapsing some of these wire rounds. So let's just make sure that they are somewhat similar in terms of length. Unless you like your earrings one a little longer than the other. And that's okay with me. Whatever you like. Cover your work as you make your cut. And round nose pliers makes the turn for this simple loop. There we go. Here's the ear wire. Open it with the chain nose. Add that ring, that loop to your ear wire. Make sure they're tight. You don't want to lose your work. And here we are. Earring number 2. And how long is that one? Let's see. People like various sizes. I like my earrings nice and long. This one measures up into the ear wire, measures about 2 1/4 inches long. And I think that's a flattering length. You can make it shorter if you wish. or even longer. Make what we used to call shoulder dusters. And there we are. Working with the smallest mandrel and some artistic wire, rose gold twist, which is available at Jesse James Beads, I'm going to make this dangle another pair of earrings, or you could make a necklace with lots of chain dangles. Let me hold it here for you so you can see. I'm working with the 3 mixes: the root beer float, the strawberry cream, and the vanilla bean. This time I'm going to show you how to create that small cone with the mandrel not in the holder. Instead, I'm going to place it into the chuck. This is a universal chuck, sometimes called a Jacob's chuck. It has teeth that closes to the size of the shank that you put in there. And this is the Coil Gizmo Professional Deluxe. I believe that it is in the catalog, and it's very easy to crank. I just want to show you or mention to you that any of the mandrels they all have the same size stem or shank. They all will fit into a manual rotating chuck. They'll also fit into an automatic, which I'll just show you later. Okay, so I've inserted the small mandrel into the chuck. I've tightened down the teeth, and this is attached. It has its own clamp, so it's attached to the table, and then I can remove it when I want. Place the wire into the guide hole. Now watch carefully. I still want to make sure that my artistic wire, has plenty of wire feeding up. And my intention is to make a cone just like this one. Then we can cut it down. Okay, so thumb and index finger happens to be, I'm cranking with my dominant hand, and I am placing and holding with my non-dominant thumb and index finger. You'll do what is comfortable for you. Moves very nicely, but you do need to make sure that you keep your eye on it and the placement of your fingers so that the wires, each round, lays down where it should, next to the previous round. It can give you a nice tight cone. This is fun to do, and again, very versatile mandrel design. Thank you, Beaded. Okay, going to trim away. All right, and I'll just remove the entire mandrel from the chuck. Cut it away from the guide hole and slip the cone off. Now, you can see that I have the 3 cones here. One of them is already assembled in the earring, and these 2 are more similar in terms of size. I'll trim this one down a little bit, but I wanted this particular ice cream cone earring to be a little bit shorter. So what I actually did was I removed this section just by cutting in, and I think I will do that again. So take my cutter and keep my eye on it so I make sure not to cut too much or too little. And I literally just slice into it, removing that bit of cone. Okay, I think this will work nicely. You always want to try to keep those little wire ends, especially with a twist wire, because twist wire is 2 wires together, 2 round wires together. All right, let's do the assembly. So I have placed the first 2 beads, the root beer float tiny square that's coming in very handy, and then a crystal rondelle. Next comes the cone itself. All right, and again, I need something in there so it doesn't slosh around. That's the job of this barrel or tube in the ice cream, in the root beer float. collection mix. Okay, I have this beautiful tulip, metal tulip, that I'm going to place in there, just to place it right inside the diameter. And then I'm going to top it with this root beer teardrop, inverted. Okay, next is the swirly pink rondelle, crystal rondelle. Oh, sometimes they're so tiny it's hard to thread them easily. Okay, that one doesn't want to go on. Okay, now the white swirl from the vanilla bean mix, another rondelle, and top it with a root beer square. I think these squares are about a 3 millimeter, comparable to a 3 millimeter bead. How's that? Looks pretty good, right? I could cut this off a little bit more, but in the interest of moving along, I think you understand what I'm doing here, trying to make these similar. So I would probably cut another 2 rounds off of there, but I'm just going to make the bend, and once again show you how to assemble and to create a simple loop. Add the ear wire, and done. The collection of beautiful ice cream cone earrings, perfect for summer wear, the sizzling summer that we have. I'm in the Northeast, and it's either incredibly hot and steamy, or it's raining and cloudy. But how about that? Aren't they pretty? Let's make a pendant with the vanilla bean mix and the ice cream cone colors of the Jesse James ice cream mix, Neapolitan. I have one finished here. This is made, the housing for it is actually made on the large mandrel. I've already made 2. And as you can see, what I've done is I've inverted. So it's not really an ice cream cone style. It would be if I turned it upside down. But I would like very much to show it as more of like a bell shape. And so let's assemble. This is the vanilla bean mix. Okay, I need a nice long head pin, or a good size length of wire, about 4 inches. And again, the Beaded German style wire has a nice temper to it, so you can use that if you wish. Okay, what I'm going to do is, I am using a head pin, but I'm going to close off the, let's see, I'm going to make a bend and make a turn with my round nose pair of pliers for a simple loop. All right, this should move along fairly quickly. I'm cutting the head off, and I'm going to assemble in this fashion. First of all, I will add this prism, which happens to has a little crystal in it, which floats around. I added a jump ring to it, which is oval, and I'm going to add it to the bottom of this loop that this head pin that I just looped, or piece of wire that I just made a simple loop. Close it up. Make sure that's nice and tight. And I begin my assembly. First, there is a crystal rondelle. Okay. And then, oh, there's so many beautiful beads in this mix that it was hard for me to decide which metals to use, let alone which frosted glass, but this is what I ended up with, and I'm pretty happy with my selection. Okay, now I'm going to put on this teardrop bead. Okay, and instead of building the wire cone up, I'm going to be literally topping it, adding it in a downward fashion. So I am building my beads that are going to be sitting in there. And let's see, I'm going to top it, since there's so many of these beautiful daisy-like glass iridescent beads. I'm going to definitely use that. Okay, add a pearl. Now I think I'm almost ready to add the cone. There we go. I think it's about the same size in terms of the number of rounds, but I'm going to elongate it with my fingers so that it is more similar. Okay, let's do it. Add it this way. How's that? Okay, now top it with a rondelle, a tulip spacer. Oops. Sits right over it very nicely. Then another of these luscious, actually they're more like a satin iridescent. Need one more bead. That's where you are right now. And alongside me here I have a Lo Solo chain, and this is a chain without it's more like it's like a bead chain, and I'm going to just add it without adding the endings to it, just so you see where we're going. Okay, now up here I'm going to scrunch it all, and the end of this wire is actually going to be elongated so that I can tuck it in here. I hope to be able to do that for you. This is a 16 gauge artistic wire, and it is a gold color. 16 gauge is sturdy, very sturdy, and this was made on the large mandrel, if I didn't already state that. There we are. Now I'm just going to take this wire, the end wire, and I'm going to pull it to tuck it down into the rondelle, the spacer bead there, and there we have it. If I thread this onto the chain, we just take a piece of it to show you. Well, it's 36 inches long. Just thread it through, and this makes an elegant dangle. In terms of the length, let me measure it for you. End to end, 3 inches. This is really fun to wear, and as I said, elegant. Let's make another pendant using the 3 different mixes in the Neapolitan ice cream cone ice cream bead mix. You see it's here. And there was, as a bonus, there was this wonderful little charm of a ready-made ice cream cone, and that was in the strawberry cream mix. The wire itself is a 16 gauge artistic wire in silver, and the chain is also a Jesse James bead chain. I'm going to make one of these, show you how to make it on the large mandrel. And I think we'll go back to the professional coil gizmo deluxe. Here is a 16 gauge wire. Again, it's pretty thick, so it makes for a really nice, sturdy and substantial pendant. The wire, I make sure that let me just start from the beginning. I insert the large mandrel. Now you will see me having made the small, medium, and large, using those mandrels for the various designs that I'm showing. There we go. Okay, insert the wire and begin. Thumb and index finger are my worker fingers. And now it's an open weave to some extent. And because the wire is thick and the diameter of the mandrel is large, you don't have as much control as you would with the smaller mandrel, but that's okay. It's just fun to see how the wire lays and how the rounds of wire may be loose, but then all of a sudden begin to tighten. It's just cone shapes are just a fabulous geometric idea for designing for pendants and other kinds of drops and dangles. Okay, you can see that it's tightening here. And this wire it's a soft wire. It has a copper base, so it is as soft as it can be. It is malleable. There you go. Use the back of the cutter always to cut the wire. And at this point, I think I will just introduce a technique using a bent nose pliers, where I'm going to remove this from the mandrel from the Jacob's chuck, or universal chuck if you wish to call it that. And if you can see here, that bit of wire is sticking out. It's pretty thick. While I have it still on the mandrel, I will use the function of the mandrel as a shaping device. So instead of taking this off and then pinching the end to get rid of that point, I'll take my bent nose or chain nose pliers and I'll give it a little bit of smush. Okay, and I can feel that that is now up against the mandrel tip or pentacle. Okay, let me cut away. The wire, this thick wire from, always cover your eyes, cutting it away from the large mandrel. And what I have here is the makings for another pendant. So let me put this off to the side, or at least let me take it down so I can lay it right here next to it. And we'll do the assembly, and then we will have had two pendant designs that work with this beautiful assortment. Okay, let's elongate this a little bit. Fingers work, thumbnails, not too hard on your manicure. Okay, there we go. So, first and foremost, let's get a head pin ready. I need to make a head pin or a thick gauge wire. I need to make a bend in the wire so I can create my simple loop. That's a little bit longer than I'd like. So I'm going to trim away a little bit. And when you trim, make sure you use your back of your cutters. And create the loop with the round nose. Okay, and while I'm at it, add that dangle. That ice cream cone charm. There we go. Close it up. Okay, ready? I am going to cut away the head on this pin, since I elected to use a long, very 4-inch head pin. Okay, let us proceed with the assembly. There's the dangle. Now, here goes the cone. See what I'm up to? Okay, let us put in a bead that is a root beer tube, and then I'm going to insert a small, soft pink rose gold, no, not rose quartz color. You can see the beads right in there. Okay, let's see, I think there's one. Oh yes, there we go. Ah, look at this beautiful bead cap. Sits right in. And at this point, I think I'm going to tuck this wire, the end wire, down a little bit. Bent nose pliers works beautifully. Again, this is a thick gauge wire, but definitely lovely to work with for a pendant, particularly. You could use it also for earrings as well. And it would make a nice, if you do a short dangle, you could work a 16 gauge cone and make some small charms for a bracelet. Let's see if my lineup is correct. Not that they have to be similar, but I just want to show you the order of beads that you would find in this one. Okay, scrunching it up and making a bend. Cutting a little bit longer bit of wire so that I can make a substantial simple loop, and There we go. Takes two. Let's put at the end of this chain. I love this chain. It really is kind of nice and slithery like a snake, and yet it's not a snake chain. It's definitely I think it's a flat box chain. Beautiful chains at Jessie James Beads. Large links, small links, substantial links, decorated links. There we have it, a 16 gauge artistic wire with the large Cone-Tastic mandrel on the professional coil gizmo, and the, well, using all three of the bead mixes, the strawberry cream, the vanilla bean, and the root beer float. Enjoy. Welcome back, Sandra Lupo here, wrapping it up. Let's make some ice cream cones and let's have a great time this summer with the various bead mixes from Jessie James Beads. I'd like to reintroduce you to the bead mix and the tools and the wire that we use tonight. We're talking about Jessie James Neapolitan ice cream mix in strawberry cream, vanilla bean, and root beer float. The wire that we've been using has all been artistic wire, with mention of Beadalon's German style wire that is also available on the Jessie James website. And last but not least, my baby, the Cone-Tastic Tool with the 3 different size mandrels and the holder, and the use of the professional deluxe coiling gizmo, which is also on the website. My name is Sandra Lupo. I can be reached at www.sandstones.com, SANDSSTONES.com. Enjoy making some ice cream cone earrings, pendants, and dangles, and just have a wonderful summer.